Ross Electronics. Historically simple, remarkably useful. Bud Ross, Chinook, Kansas. Custom amps. Some other stuff. History. Innovation. Timelessness.
That's a good word.
Change. A quality product for a quality player. That's you.
Man, that was beautiful. Thanks for joining us. It's good to be here. The point of this entire life is to hang out with you. We have the gang. Hi, gang.
What up?
What up? This is quite the project. Quite the project. We haven't seen Nick in a while,
Yeah,
but Nick's here.
I'm here.
He's in a white leather chair.
Hi, Nick.
Kate-
White pants?
White pants.
I've been reborn.
All right. Well, if you don't know, we had the incredible privilege of launching Ross Pedals yesterday. We brought the company back from the dead. This is a company that's super important to pedals. And yeah, we were able to bring it back. We were able to reproduce a new era, distortion pedal, a fuzz pedal that never existed, a phaser pedal, a chorus pedal, and the famous Ross compressor back, the most famous of all. And it's been quite a project, including a full documentary, a lot of content around it, a lot of research and study. I basically started the imagining of the task of the project and then executing that task in 2020, late 2020. So I'd say a couple years of work, and then we put it out in the wild, and your response has been amazing. So we're super excited that you love it and you're into it. And all we want to do is just kind of hang out here. So I'm going to ask the gang some questions. We're going to ramble and talk, and then we're going to answer your questions if you have any. Joshua is going to be digging for anything cool to answer. We're also going to do an Ernie Ball trivia time. So you win a whole box of strings from them. We'll do that question in just a minute, and then at the end, we'll close off with that winner. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. So my first question to the gang is, what was the hardest part?
Is the whole thing of
Josh, what are
is
you
the-
talking about? This was the
Yeah,
easiest
it was so
thing
easy. It
JHS
did-
has ever done.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not tired at all.
It was a breeze.
It was so anyone can do this.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Let's do it again. I mean, Nick, like for real, it had to be the
Yeah,
documentary.
No, the documentary was probably one of the hardest things I've ever made. It just requires so much detail, and there's so many different layers to like making something like that. Like Josh, you have to do all the research. You like start off with this research level, and then from the research level, you find out what the gaps are, and then once you find the gaps, you find people to talk to, and then once you find people to talk to, you have to schedule interviews, and then when you schedule interviews, you have to take film gear and audio gear and lighting gear and make sure that looks good. Then you have to capture all that and then kind of distill that into you have to go through it and like literally label everything. It's just so much work, and then trying to find photographs and like archival pieces and all of the assets that you see in the documentary. Like if it's like footage from like the 60s and stuff, that's from an archive website, but like pretty much everything else is like made from scratch. So like all of the map stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when
yeah.
you see a van rolling across a map, you had to buy a map and toy cars.
I spent like, to just get into the nitty gritty, I had to like learn about like miniature car sizes because I wanted the cars to be like at least
Yeah.
proportional to each other. So I had to like go on Amazon and find like the right proportions for like a bus. And it was like,
Yeah.
it's like funny things where you spend an afternoon. But like a lot of that stuff,
You have some on your iPad
yeah,
there?
like these
Let's
are
pull it up. Can we pull it up?
Sure, yeah. So these are like my little chapter markers. Like in the documentary, you see me like, I have a laser pointer on here. Like you see the like amp get set down,
Yeah.
And you see the little arrow that says I'm gonna set it down and
So you
things like
didn't
that.
just be like, "Hey, let's try setting it down." You have to plot this out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to like kind of plan like how do I want to illustrate these different parts, and then like you can see like this is when you introduce arrow one, um, you know, you can see like the pedals being plugged in, and I'm very clearly trying to work out this visual, um, and there's just like literally like there's 40, 48, 45 pages, something like that, of just like information I'm writing down, like trying to figure out how to accomplish these. Like this is the original idea for like hanging picture frames on the wall, and then like this is a little guy, it's like this is where the map idea came from, and you know,
Yeah.
use old TV to show pics and old footage. Like
I'm glad you used the TV. I found that TV at an estate sale like 9 years ago,
yeah,
and it was in the storage unit, and it finally got used.
yeah, this is, I have the like original set design drawings where we were like, you know, we have this old church that we were going to move into. It's a long story, I don't need to get into it. But we converted one of the rooms in this like decrepit building
Yeah.
into the
Mhm.
Ross set.
Which
It came
fortunately
with
was
the wood paneling.
yeah, it was like
Yeah,
an old
wood
church from the 70s
wood
that was
paneling
abandoned.
included.
And the smell of the 70s included.
Yeah.
It smelled like dusty socks in there.
Yeah, it was, and no AC for like, we had like no air conditioning for a couple days, and like in the summer,
It was
like in the beginning of the summer, and it was wretched.
What would you consider the air quality in there?
It was
Come on.
like crusty at best.
Would you say it was era?
Oh, I would say it was
appropriate?
era appropriate. Oh, you set me up for that one. I
I
totally
did.
didn't. Totally didn't see that.
It's okay.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah.
the documentary side of this to so you know, it kind of starts when I'm like, I'm gonna get to do Ross. All right, I faced that amazing opportunity and challenge at the same time, and you know, we had to work out stuff with Cameron and make sure we did this justice. And immediately, I know. I mean, if you've ever watched the show, I'm giving intense attention to like brands, you know, the history of BBE or some brand, right? So if I'm actually going to take on a brand, I have to go even further. Like I have to know everything. I have to dig even what the family doesn't know they have. And so that started for me with a scouting trip. I got in the car, I scheduled it. I drove to Chanute, Kansas, and I started photographing all the addresses that I saw on pedal boxes. I got a hold of a real estate agent who had the 210 West Main building that I've seen on the bottoms of the pedals, that address. I got in the building. I, you know, I just went and did the scout, and then Nick, we went on a separate trip
Mm-hmm.
and took the film gear. So there's just
Yeah.
this whole thing of like all the information existed in my hometown of Kansas City, Bud's son, and then Chanute, which is a few hours away. And it was like this harvesting the info.
Yeah.
And then there's truckloads of info.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to me and Kelsey sorting the info, sorting a narrative. You can't just, the hardest part about research, the part of research that's crippling is there's too much information always. And you get these interviews and they're an hour to 3 hours long and you're transcribing them. And we had to find a narrative that worked. And I think your documentary piece, Nick, is like the challenge of that is me and Kelsey working, you taking over that narrative, and then trying to visualize this insane narrative of decades long. And it's
Yeah.
super challenging.
Yeah, it definitely was, and you know, like lots of revisions. And there's a point where I think it, like with any art, like any long-term project that you're working on, like there's that moment where you cross over and you're like, I don't even know what documentaries are anymore. And
Yeah.
so, you know, we had you and Steve Offit and Bell come in and like watch it and get perspective, and like it was interesting like pulling you guys in and hearing your guys' feedback and like going through the process of just constant,
Yeah.
like just like revision after revision. And yeah, and but like honestly, the one of my favorite parts of doing the documentary was like getting to score it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we kind of decided early on like we wanted to make the score ourselves. and like have all original music and try not to use anything that we've like used before. Um,
Yeah, that was when you're watching the documentary, we tracked it all. Do we
Yeah.
have some footage of that?
I'll see if I can pull it
Yeah,
up.
we actually we strangely enough had this we had practiced this once in a very weird way. So myself, Nick, and Addison, uh, I photograph gravel cycling, which is a very weird hobby to have. But then there was a filmmaker, and there's these documentaries that are made, and it's a pretty huge industry. And we were asked to score a documentary about American gravel racing. And so
Yeah.
we scored this like 2 years ago, and it was interesting because we loved it so much. I think we should put that out as a vinyl, and maybe even this soundtrack at some point as a vinyl. But we came in and we had this goal of like making music that felt like Ross. And
Mhm.
so there was this challenge of Credence, Grateful Dead, but also like what Ross could be. And we used a lot of acoustic instruments, banjos, mandolins, electric guitars. I had a B-bender, electric, like just crazy approach to like composing this. Like I'm not a huge fan of using stock soundtrack stuff if you have the ability, and we have the ability to write and make our own music. So it's just interesting. You have those clips?
I have a clip.
Let's play a clip. Let me pull it up.
There you go. There's me playing acoustic.
Yeah, we're like in this room, and this room is a recording studio, obviously, because you've watched the shows, and we have the drums set up, and
Yeah. So we had like two kind of auxiliary room mics just kind of set up, and so that Josh and I could jump on really like any acoustic instrument at any time and like you know lay down a part.
Yeah.
And the drums were set up and we had the electric setup, and we went in like I had by the time we got to like scoring, I had like a really rough outline of the documentary, and I had put like temp music, which is just which temp stands for temporary, like temporary music. I literally just ripped like
we had like Neil Young,
and like all that stuff in there, and like Jimi Hendrix stuff in there, and then we kind of decided like, okay, this is about how many tracks I think we'll need for the different sections, and we kind of wrote out like the mood, and that was actually really interesting, like
yeah,
especially for us like trying to balance the like vibe between it's like okay like Bud sells custom, and it's like we wanted that to feel a little melancholy but not like melodramatic,
yeah.
right?
He decided to leave musical instruments.
Yeah, so like Ross ends or Bud Ross at one point in the documentary, like we talk about how he creates this dynasty of custom, and then it like he has to sell it, and it's kind of a bummer. And then so like trying to write music that was like just the right feeling without having it be like super over the top melodramatic or like completely like not matching the vibe.
I
Was
feel
an
like
interesting challenge.
I feel like working on the score was like the most peaceful I saw you guys through making this
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
entire project. Like I came in here for like 20 or 30 minutes to take some clips, and like there was a moment where you guys were playing a song back. I have a video of it. We can't play it with audio, but I'll post it. Where you guys are like listening back to a song, and like Nick's sitting on the floor, and you just hear. I can't do it. How do you do a harmonica sound?
That's good.
Yeah, that works.
That's good.
You
But
don't.
it was like the
you,
most like
It's not
you guys were
quite.
like living. You were like living in the music. You
You
know?
don't.
Yeah.
You don't get to see Nick play harmonica and me play a banjo that often.
You
No,
guys
but it was
haven't
the
lived
best.
until you've seen Josh's banjo face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was so fun. And shout out to Zane Callister who
Yep.
like kind of engineered the whole thing and played bass on it, and he just kind of like was so generous and with his just ability to kind of follow Josh and I like frantically running around. It was genuinely like so much fun. Like that aspect of making the documentary was absolutely my favorite.
Yeah. So let's do the. You want to do the trivia time question now?
No, because I need to go get it.
We'll wait on that. So let's go to Belle. Belle, what was the most challenging part to you? I just want to say, so in this, Ross hit us at an interesting spot, and I think it's worth throwing out here. That's Joshua. It's worth throwing out here that there's been a lot of comments of like where's Nick? Where's Addison? Where are the old episodes? Stuff like that. So we have this point where we've been working on restructuring how we do media here at JHS, and so it's not something you go out and you're like, hey everybody, we're doing this, because it's like doesn't really matter. We're just working through it and like trying to be more efficient and try to work on how we build what we build. And Belle actually has ran JHS Pedals production for how many years? The Pedals production. I mean, you were on the production floor for how many years?
I've been with JHS for almost 8 years, and I moved full time into media this year. So
Yeah.
I mean 7.
So Belle
But
has
I was
taken over the administration running of the media side that you see the show, which is a need we've had for a long time. And this all happened at once. As you know, Addison, he's chasing down a dream. You know, there's that thing happens. So then there's like, we pull Belle in and we just did it all at once. We're like, hey, reboot. And so you've seen me doing a lot of lives. You've seen fewer produced episodes and stuff. And that's why that is. But this Ross thing happened right. It was kind of all a moment. And I just want to say Belle has been a huge piece of what a lot of people will never see is like executing this on a brand level with all the socials, all of the artists. There's so much stuff. So anyway, I'm just shouting out Belle. Good job, Belle.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
it's
Good
like,
job, Belle.
yeah, there like a lot of the aspects of like putting the documentary together. It's not just, oh, cool, let's
Yeah.
like film it. It's like, well, you have to like
Nothing is linear.
like, no, it's like you have to, Belle's like simultaneously like calling and emailing people and like running point with like people we're collaborating with, and it's like there's a reason why, you know, it's like Emily is in the comment section or in the live chat when we went to the premiere, because Belle's like, hey, like inviting people to come hang out and making sure, like, I mean, you also, I feel like you very much so like flexed your like producer role, and your like you helped set design the set. Like we ran around to thrift stores and like trying to buy stuff.
Ran
That was
around
super
to a bunch
fun.
of thrift stores in like 99-degree heat, and it was
Yeah.
honestly that was so much fun. We like, well, you guys will see that stuff eventually, but we went and bought like a bunch of 70s clothes, and we got like that whole set. The only new thing in that set is the carpet, and thank God.
So the set, just to define, when you watch the documentary, you see a wood desk, a wall with pictures. That is all a set that Belle and Nick designed and built, just for clarity.
Yeah, the wooden desk, we negotiated with people at a thrift store.
Oh yeah, we haggled.
We haggled. Nick and I haggled. That was a big moment for us.
It was cool.
It's cool for me, like, you guys individually are like so talented as the brother sister duo. It's pretty awesome. It's like the best DC. No, I don't. It's like, is DC good now? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Comics.
Let's
comics.
Please be careful. Please be careful.
We don't want to tangent.
Daniel Danger's in here. He'll take care of that.
Yeah, if you guys are on our TikTok at all,
But
well, you can
and to also clarify, just watch, you know, the Ross Electronics socials. Belle's going to be posting like BTS stuff and some of the things she's mentioning. So Belle, what was most challenging? Because that's the setup for, you came in for the first time in 15 years of JHS history.
Yeah.
And you started running what I and Nick had kind of ran together, but you took it over as a department head, and the first project you've ever done was launching a second company.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge, and this is just like this is pretty broad strokes, but just pretty much what you just said, like jumping into a completely new like corner of JHS, and like kind of trying to pick up where things were left off with Ross, and like learn everything about like the story and what we're doing, like everybody that you like connecting with everybody that we interviewed, and like setting like the scheduling of like, you know, trying to keep up with like normal JHS stuff while we're trying to bring in this new aspect, this whole new brand and everything. We were just under like such a huge time of transition here, so it was really just like learning so many things all at once, and like trying to figure out where things were at, and like sort of get myself familiar with the space and what we were doing, which is just, I don't know, it's just like a big giant puzzle, but I mean, it was a fun puzzle. It's like, it's like working on the Ross set was probably one of the most fun parts of it. I'm thinking about all the like enjoyable parts. You're
Mm-hmm.
saying challenges, but like,
Yeah.
like working on the set was like, grown up playing house with my brother. That was really exciting. Like getting to like sort of like create a little world.
Yeah. We've never gone that. I don't think we've ever gone that like far for anything we've ever filmed before. building
Poison
this set.
Noises is declaring you the Wonder Twins in the chat.
Aw.
So
Wonder
Yeah.
Twins.
I've got a picture
So-
of the set.
follow me not in the comments.
yeah.
Ask follow me not. Ask what was the budget.
The budget?
I just said LOL.
That's
Yeah.
a great question that I would love
Yeah.
to ignore.
Yeah,
I mean-
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's
Just
It's-
like
Time.
time was so
time. Yeah, budget is funny. I think we're a small business in the Midwest at the back end of a pandemic and an economy that's not great, and we're still trying to create excellent stuff. And I think there is, I think there can be this assumption that like we're just like printing money, because we sell a lot of pedals, and it's interesting. It's interesting when you look at this, like the way I had to approach this as a business owner is, you have to like find the least. You have to take risks, right? You have to take a lot of. This is my speech no one asked for about running a business. So all you people running pedal companies in the comments, you hear these stories your whole life about, people take risks. Bill Gates dropped out of school. Well, he stayed in school for a year and he had money from his dad. You don't get the other side. And so the thing is, Bill Gates was a genius at mitigating risk. And so when you look at something like Ross, I had to look at it and go, this is a freaking amazing opportunity. How do I not have it destroy what's working? And we actually didn't have much financial budget to give it at all. And so we had to be creative with what we did. And what we could give it was time. And there is an equation of time and money there. But yeah, I just want to throw that out.
I think too with that, like when it comes to like budgeting in the general use of the word, when it comes to like budgeting your time, budgeting your energy, budgeting your money, I think we had to look at like what is this worth to us, like what we could get out of something that we were willing to spend our time on and our money on. Like that set down the street is like that was like money and time well spent for what you can get out of it. I know I'm backtracking a little bit here on the challenge question. Something that I think was a challenge for me was like, well, for us as a group was like finding a voice for Ross that is different than JHS when it comes to like social media is like not like JHS is very like, kind of like self-deprecating sense of humor and goofy and like we have that thing, but we didn't want Ross to feel like just a copy of that personality.
Yeah,
But it's still us.
we
at
wanted
the
to
same
honor
time.
it.
Yeah.
But like, how do we stay? We are now Ross.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, that is a strange tension in Nick's overwhelming catalog of notes here. It's like super cool. There's a comment in there that I read earlier, and it said, we can't be too serious because there's a danger. We've
Yeah.
watched some companies relaunch, and there are times when the relaunch of an old company, in my opinion, and I think our opinion as a company, and opinions are a dime a dozen, but I think we sense a seriousness that feels not like us, and I think that was a real struggle, like in what
Yeah.
you're saying, Belle. Like I think that was one of the biggest tensions. And I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to
Yeah.
interject because
Well,
what you're
and
saying is so
two,
good.
The other thing is like a big thing Nick wanted to bring into the like aesthetic, the feel, the voice of Ross was like we wanted it to feel like you're time traveling a little bit to the whole 70s thing. Like we thought that would be a really cool experience, especially for people who grew up with Ross as some of their first pedals, to see like the wood panel walls and stuff
Yeah.
without it also being like corny, that we are like leaning so far into it that it's also not modern, like like that it's not modern enough.
And I think a challenge that we have now that I'm concerned with is I live in the past. I love the past. I would be a history teacher. I would make a time machine and keep going backwards till everything disappeared. Like that's how I love that. But
you
I
want to
think
be Miss Frizzle.
yes, I want a
Me
magic
too.
school bus. I want a magic school bus. So what I'm saying is one of the things, and this is me being vulnerable, and maybe some comments here would be helpful. This is market research.
Mm.
It is that Ross pedals are not just classic rock pedals.
Yeah, totally.
And we now have a job to take Era 5 and show you that they're freaking good shoegaze pedals and
Yeah.
they're great pedals for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that tension of like honoring that story
Yeah.
and how do we move into another story? And in my opinion, this is the challenge and the failure of a lot of relaunches.
Yeah. That's actually something I kind of wanted to to throw to everybody watching right now. Like I do I manage our social media, so I see all of the stories that we get tagged in and stuff. Like I would like to throw out the challenge to you guys, like show us like show us all the different genres that you can play with Ross pedals. Like I think we've gotten tagged in a lot of like 70s classic rock stuff,
Sure.
which is cool and I love it. Don't get me wrong. How many times I've heard the Friends theme song played
Yeah.
which is awesome. But like I would love to hear you guys like do a shoegaze thing, like do a blues thing, do a jazzy thing, do a I can't think of other genres right now.
Yeah.
But like we'd love to see that too because we know that these pedals are totally capable of that. They're very versatile. And while we're going to work to show everyone that, like we want to hear it from you too as well.
Yeah, I feel like the part of the fun of this process is, and the challenge is even just learning what Ross is. Like, I think that's something that's been interesting is like trying to define Ross for ourselves because it's one thing for us to like give you guys a documentary and tell you the whole story, but it's like we got more story to tell from here on out.
Yeah, we have
And
to
so
make a story.
yeah, and I think one of the things I've loved kind of figuring out is like I feel like it's a part of the identity of Ross outside of just being this really, really interesting looking, like minimal brand from the 70s is that it's so like approachable and it's like the most unintimidating thing you can possibly pick up. Like there's nothing there's nothing that was going to go over your head. And I liked that about like even playing them the little I have like Josh said, I don't know if it made it in the documentary, but he said something along the lines of like these pedals kind of get out of your way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great, especially if you're like really wanting to get into like a creative zone and you're like I just need the car to run well. And it's
Yeah.
like that's kind of how I feel about these Ross pedals. It's like I turned on the compressor and phaser and it was like instantly Tame Impala, like instant Tame Impala.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do anything. It was just immediately there. And so I'm excited. The thing I'm excited about from like this point out is like creating more narrative around like, okay, cool. We've told you about era 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're in era 5.
And our
and it's like,
customers are in Era 5.
yeah, and
That's
you
what's
guys are in
interesting.
era 5. And so like, and if you watch the documentary, you'll understand like that there are these very distinct eras of Ross, and learning about them is like, it's very reflective of every decade that they kind of pop up or whatever. But it'll be fun to see Ross in context that it never would have been, in the 70s and 80s.
So, Joshua,
Yes.
you're probably in the middle of comment land, but what's your perspective on this? I mean, you do a bit of, you're doing, this project, just so you know, Joshua covered, everything from copy editing the essay to the website to, I mean, just dealing with communication and picking up amps and like, you've done a lot of work. Like, what have you seen from your perspective?
Yeah, it's it I my perspective is a little interesting because I didn't have so much hands on the actual production of the video or the pedals or anything like that, but what I was doing besides hauling amps back and forth across the metro um, was I was in touch with demo people and artists, and a lot of people, most everybody that I reached out to who had any familiarity with Ross was really, really excited to see the brand relaunch. we had a lot of really positive um, responses to me emailing and asking, "Hey, just so you know, we are secretly relaunching Ross in a month, and we want to send you these 5 pedals." Or asking the demo people the same. Hey, this tip top secret thing is happening, and we want you to demo our Ross pedals. Everybody's very excited about it. It seems like it's a moment that people all across the industry connected with really well, and I think really deeply. Um, something something about relaunching the brand that's different than, say, making a clone, like, because it's like you think of the 3 series are these clones slash
I'm listening.
what was that?
That was Siri.
God.
Okay, Siri.
What do you want?
We have the Legends of Fuzz, right? And it's like these recreations of old classic circuits, but
I'm listening.
Can they hear this?
they're in new enclosures that are kind of a throwback, but they're not really vintage. Um, Relaunching Ross as a brand and making the pedals look like old Ross pedals and re-releasing circuits that people really connected with early in their music, I don't know, music journey, I think was a good connect point for both people who were doing demos, artists, um, or both. So I mean, and you saw that a little bit on the documentary too, with people like Keely, or even Josh, who they're starting their music journey with Ross,
Yeah.
and that was, I think, that's really meaningful to us as a company, and I think us as individuals, because we have moments, especially Nick and I, because we're emotional fools.
They fight a lot.
Where it's like, oh, we're still making toys. We're in our 30s and we're still making toys for people who are our age or older.
Hey, I'm 41, man. I feel it. There's a deep need to know that it matters.
But
Yeah,
there is
for sure.
something really cool about seeing people like Keeley,
Yeah.
or Butch Walker on the screen being like, this is one of the most exciting things that's happened in
Yeah.
a long time. Because it's not like the circuits aren't,
Yeah.
circuits are not like revolutionary
Right.
for our time. But they are tapping into something that they're tapping into something that was revolutionary and helped make revolutionary music.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's been like it's really really great to have gotten the feedback that we have, like watching the documentary and like when we premiered it and just being in the chat with everybody was so fun, just because we have worked so long, and then to have people kind of be like, oh wow, like this is really cool, I didn't know, like I think one of the things that I really really loved was seeing people who were like, oh, I didn't know about this brand, because it's you know, it feels like you're getting to introduce somebody for the first time to this thing that is a big part of pedal history, but then also, it's kind of just like bringing people into that story. And it's interesting because it's like a lot of times, especially in the pedal industry, there's so much lore around different brands. There's so much lore around pedals. I mean, like, EHX, the Klon, you name it. There's so much of that stuff, and it's just fun to be able to like create kind of like a definitive like go-to place where people who are new, like it doesn't feel like there's like this gate kept information about Ross. Like it's out there and people can just access it now and then experience it for themselves in a way that's like, you know, I hadn't thought about this really, but when we had, John Mayer like sent us a video talking about Ross, which was awesome. But he was like, I'm glad that it's like accessible now. And I think that's been something like that's sort of been carries over even to our Legends of Fuzz, like the kind of vision and thought behind something like Legends of Fuzz is like taking things that are, unobtainium and making it available because these circuits are really fun and cool. And it's like taking something like Ross where it's like, I mean, shoot, we were like, we had a couple people reach out that were like, hey, do you guys need the flanger? Because like I've got the flanger if you guys
Yeah.
want. Like we couldn't find the flanger, and I know like there's a few pedals like I think Daniel Danger was helping us like track a couple. Like they're hard. There's some of these are hard to find.
Oh man, the Ross era 2 distortion that says output, and the compressor that says output, and the phaser that says recycle. Ugh.
Yeah.
They're just it's I think John referred to it. He said they're no longer a vintage hunt.
Yeah,
And
totally.
I think that's super cool. I'd love to dive in. Can we let's start up trivia time?
Sure.
And then so what we'll do, we're gonna do Ernie Ball trivia time. So we're gonna throw out a question, Joshua will, and the correct answer, he'll sort through that. Him or Bell, someone will sort through that, and then at the end of this, we will something around 3:00 or so, we'll announce that winner. But right after this question, I want to jump right into Q&A from the comments and just talk to you as the viewers and the customers. It seems like a lot of you are loving this format. We have wondered if we should do some things and just sit around and talk. I think Belle is dying to just do episodes where we just hang out and talk.
Yeah.
So in those comments, if you like this format,
if you're sick of hearing us play guitar,
because we are,
people are already saying they love the format. So.
It's great because honestly, it's easy and simple, and we have a lot to share all the time. But we're always concerned it's not entertaining enough, which I'm growing to hate that term.
Sorry, before we jump into this, I just want you to know that I'm new to the marketing team. The people in the chat know this, but you don't know this yet. One of the big changes I'm planning on making.
Don't know this?
Yeah, at least by 2024 is we're going to be changing Ernie Ball trivia time into Ernie Ball therapy time. So basically, what happens is everybody tells us their favorite childhood memory. We pick somebody, they win strings. Something like
Brian
that.
Ball will love this.
I'm workshopping it.
He will love this. All right.
But for now, trivia time or whatever.
All right, here we go.
This is we actually have the stinger. Wonderful. I forgot. This is the part of the JHS show where we ask you an Ernie Ball trivia time question, and the first person to get the answer correct in our servers gets a whole box of Ernie Ball strings. Question: What famous discontinued Music Man instrument was the first to offer a gunstock oil and wax neck?
What?
What famous discontinued Music Man instrument was the first to offer a gunstock oil and wax neck?
I don't know what that means.
All right.
I don't either. Josh, do you know what that means?
I do. Let's. You ready for Q&A?
Yeah.
It's time for Q&A. Tell me all your questions.
All right, throw them out.
All right. Adventures in Gearland asked, how challenging was bringing the fuzz into pedal form from the amp?
I'll take this one.
Good, because
I got nothing.
I saw Belle and Nick look down. Not that challenging. Pedals are not rocket science, and people that tell you they are probably just really, I don't know. I'll leave that to your imagination. It's a fuzz. We obviously had to do the research. The custom amps regarding the custom clipper with a K. They use the phonetic hard K and everything, and then their spelling, and so it's called the custom clipper. You can Google this, you can find schematics, and we had to go a little deeper and do a good job of, we got a hold of, like, I got this amp from Bud's family. They have a bunch of amps, and then there's a collector that was in the documentary, David. It was just, there's two circuits you can use, and there's kind of these two forms of that fuzz. But to pick one, the thing with custom amps is they're solid state already, so technically it's already a pedal circuit, just to be frank. And so we had to pull that out, and you gotta make it work. Put your switching in, fit the format, but it wasn't that difficult, and it might have been the least difficult thing of the entire project. And I love it. So if you're unfamiliar, I might do a live on this tomorrow morning from my basement, or one morning. It's called the Ross Fuzz, and the fuzz term is a little hard on me because it's fuzz when you crank it all the way, and it was called a fuzz in the descriptors of the product back in the day, but it really is almost a better distortion than the distortion. So if you're curious, these are way more similar than you might think, and this is actually my favorite. So great question.
Nice.
Alex Villas. Yeah. Via. Alex Villa. Is the Univibe setting on the phaser good enough to replace my unicorn?
I think it's just preference. Like there is no better. It just comes down to what you think. I mean, it does a very, very good Univibe chorus sound. The unicorn does, it's apples and oranges, honestly. The unicorn is a true bulb driven unit, which will do vibrato. My favorite Univibe sound is the vibrato mode. You know, the Ross is not going to do that. So for me, I would need to stick with the unicorn. But if you're like a Pink Floyd nut, you could totally use the Ross to do those sounds, or like the Hendrixy Robin Trower stuff. I don't know what's better for you. It does, when you hit the button, you know, it does a Univibe sound, but it does it simplistically with 2 controls. It's a very good sound, but it's not the same beast as a unicorn.
Nice.
Here's a good one. Brennan Bova asked, was it scary to approach this relaunch seeing the issues that happened with Cameron's attempt, or were those issues things you were just suited to handle?
This is a great question, and I'll just be honest with you. There were discussions with Cameron about, what happened. And I think I feel comfortable saying that I have an opinion and I'll just share it. I think the Era 4s weren't built in the greatest quality. There's issues. I mean, I had to actually have discussions with dealers who had carried Era 4s, because they would get them and knobs would fall off and paint was already scratched and just weird stuff, and pedal building is not hard, but pedal manufacturing is insanely difficult, and trying to pick up dealers. And they had a lot of traction early. They had a reverb launch. They had Japan making orders they couldn't fulfill. And I understand and have extreme empathy for that situation. I think they did the best that they could do, and I respect their effort and I respect that era. But I did have to come into this being candid with myself and prepared for this question that I'm answering right now, and just say, yeah, I saw all of the issues, and I had to I knew it was my job and the job of JHS to do the best Ross pedals ever made, and I actually believe we did that. And so I think the challenge, I learned from context and looking back. And so I was able to look at all these eras and study them and know exactly how to do the good things good and exactly how to fix what was done wrong. And being in 2023, we have a lot of privileges as manufacturers with our tools, with what we can use. And I think these are the best Ross pedals that have ever been made.
Boom.
Max Edis asked if we had to hire more builders to do Ross, and the answer is no. Our production team
Killed it.
killed it. They
They're
did
Incredible.
always on
JHS.
fire.
This is
And
actually,
Ross.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Y'all take it
you.
away.
No, our production team is incredible. Michael Schley is running the
He's a
production
Schley
team.
guy.
He's a Schley guy. He actually played guitar on one of the Instagram demos that we put out. He'll actually all of them. And Renee downstairs, she's the line assembly line leader, and like everybody on the line, from like all the builders to the testers to the shippers, everybody. And to put this into context, everybody did incredible, and everybody had to problem solve new things. Like I mean, it feels so like small, but even down to the packaging, like
Yeah.
our team has a way that they package JHS pedals, and once you get into that rhythm, it's quick, but then you switch over to a box with a lid that comes off, and then you have like all posters and pamphlets.
booklets.
It's a whole new process. And I remember walking down, and like our lead boxer was like teaching other people like how to do it, and they were like, okay, this is like a new rhythm, because like rhythm is such a huge part of like efficient building. And they all were having to learn new rhythms for building Ross. But freaking knocked it out of the
Yeah.
park. It was
It's
incredible.
every little detail, like the knobs, the recessed knobs. That was like a new thing. We have like 3D printed templates that we use so that we put the knobs on without scratching the cases. We're printing the back plate, so they had to like create new like jigs that go on the printers so
Yeah.
that they can print the back plates, and a different type of, everything about like the way that they get put into bins when they're built. Like they've just done such a good job at like
Yeah.
problem solving. And I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of goes for everybody that's worked on Ross, because every little aspect of it is approached differently than JHS. It's just
Yeah.
being ready to roll with the punches and figuring out a new way to do something efficiently.
Yeah, it was nice. Steve Small, who was the plant manager for Ross in the 70s, when they were doing Ross when Bud was running it, and Steve Small came by and actually got to see. He was so excited to see the manufacturing because that was his ballpark, and it was so heartwarming to like see him feel like really confident in the way that things were being done, and to kind of get his seal of approval and be like, oh yeah, like this is great, like this is top tier. And so that was really fun because it's just another like, oh cool, like it's not just like we're making it well, but like this like previous generation of Ross is like, yeah, like this
Yeah.
is in good
Someone
hands.
who's actually done it before can like step onto our production floor and be like, yeah, you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah.
This is great.
It means a lot because the Era 2 Chanute 110 West Main, those are the best made historical Ross pedals.
It's technically 210 West Main.
210. Yeah. Good job, Nick. Good job.
I know too much about this
I'm rubbing
brand.
off on you. 210 West Main is the Era 2 first version Chanutes are the best made. And that was him.
Yeah,
And that meant a lot to me.
really high
Mhm.
quality
Yeah.
stuff.
Let's keep throwing these out. This is fun. Yeah.
Starlight Record Club asks, was it easy to convince the Ross family to do a new pedal regarding the fuzz that was never originally released by Ross?
No. The beautiful thing, another just continuing to just be candid, is Cameron and I met. Cameron and I had discussions, and I said, he's like, I want to do this. I want it to be done really well. I want it to be done like, how do we do this? And I knew I could do it, and I knew our team could execute it. I knew we could, as a team, do something really magical with this. And part of the agreement, is he trusts us. Like when I said I wanted to do the fuzz, he literally didn't bat an eye. He's like, that'd be awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
anything I suggested, he just knew that I loved this brand. And
Yeah.
I think there was such a trust that is really important in creative collaboration, that he gave me, and I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, for sure.
Caber Wilson, are there any plans of bringing back some of the 2-switch Ross pedals?
The 2-switchers, it's an interesting thing that is obvious. It has been obvious since 2020 in my head. I struggle with the need for the giant enclosures in a modern world. I also struggle with sometimes beautiful things don't need a purpose. They're just really beautiful and you should do them. I really struggle with those. I obviously think moving forward, just like we introduced a fuzz, we will introduce other things, and we need to build forward with Era 5.
Yeah.
Era 5 doesn't need to always be the past. We did a good job here with the past. I do want to go forward, but I also recognize this is Ross. Like, we're not going to build Strymon pedals.
Sure.
I have to think more about this. There's an obvious need. We want to bring in the Ross delay. It's the I can't do the Ross delay. It's a Redicon delay. I can get close, and I want to pay tribute to that old Redicon delay. So same things with these combos, distortion phaser. If I put out a distortion phaser, when I talked earlier about risk, I have to be honest and say, I don't think anyone will buy it, not to the numbers it will cost to produce it. And that feels like a red flag risk in this project. There are several. I would love to do everything. I would love to have $1 million free to play with, but we don't. And so these risks are just something we're trying to weigh out. And of course, in the comments, you're going to be saying, make it. But in 2 years, if it comes out, what will your wallet say? That's what I have to consider as the business owner. You can buy the distortion and phaser and set them on your board. Or, it's like, that's such a struggle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off that question because, like, you mentioned the distortion and phaser. This is actually a question from me. John Mayer talked about his first Ross pedal being the phaser and
Yeah.
the distortion. Are those circuits like the same as the distortion and phaser individually that we have?
Yeah, they're identical.
Okay.
They're the same exact thing. When you buy a JHS double barrel, you get a Morning Glory and a Moonshine. That's all. It's an ease of combination. It's not a new product. It's a
Yeah,
it's a cocktail of two products.
cool.
Yeah.
Are these pedals real?
No.
or
No, we are lying.
or are they just digital files in some modeling software?
I mean, these are all analog devices that we replicated from the actual units themselves in the same way that we've done as a company with projects like the Bonsai and the Mufflet and the Pack Rat. And I think it's worth saying, I think one of the reasons this launch was so successful being defined as we're happy with it and the products are good to our standards. You get to choose if you like them. That's not my decision. This project was successful because JHS for over a decade has already been doing similar projects, and we were able. I think I'm having to be okay and not be humble about. I struggle with like, oh shucks, man. When I hear in the documentary, everyone's saying there's no better company than JHS to do this, and I find myself like, oh, I don't like I've always struggled with that, but I do have to pause. I did yesterday watching it, and I just went, they're right. We've really learned to do this, and
Yeah.
that wasn't the answer, but it is the answer. They're all analog. They're not modeling, and we use that same skill set that we've kind of learned. We've mastered it, honestly, over a decade, and so that's why these Ross pedals really work well.
So
We're not in a simulation.
No Ross clone.
I think that would be ridiculous.
Who owns Custom nowadays, and what's Ross's current relationship with Custom, if anything?
Yeah, Custom Amps was sold, as you see in the documentary. By the way, there's a lot of comments. You're asking what is Ross? There's a documentary. You should go watch it. We'll link it in this description. It came out yesterday. It was a huge effort from us. So just watch that documentary and you'll learn everything about that. I'm seeing there's so many questions. Ross Custom was Bud Ross's first big successful company. It was sold off to Baldwin Organs, and then it kind of just kept being handed down, and it's currently owned by someone in Ohio, and you can buy Custom amps. I think it's a little tricky. We've reached out to them. We haven't really been able to connect. They don't really do the tuck and roll thing. Belle, did you ever get a hold of them? Like, we tried.
I reached out. I just never heard anything.
Yeah, so very anticlimactic, but it exists. I know what you're all wondering. I don't really have any interest in making amps, but it'd be cool. I think if someone wanted to do custom amps in the tuck and roll, and at the same time, I don't think they would sell. I just think there's that thing that we love nostalgia, but will we actually participate in it is a huge question for creatives.
Question about ownership. There's a lot of questions along these lines. Basically, is Ross its own company? Does JHS own Ross? What's JHS and Ross's relationship?
Yeah,
good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Ross is the marks, which are trademarks. The ownership of Ross Electronics is owned by Cameron Ross, who is Bud Ross's grandson. I signed agreements to run, create, design, manufacture, market, sell, distribute the whole thing for an allotted amount of years. That's a good amount of time where I felt comfortable with the investment of my efforts. And so I run it and control it in that sense, but Cameron owns it and fully controls it. If he wanted to make a pedal shaped like a pineapple with a rabbit on it and like it's a vape, I would break the agreement. You know, it's like we
Should you though?
yeah, maybe.
I feel like that's kind of what people want. I feel like people are looking for a good old just
Yeah.
peel the Velcro off your pedal board and
Yeah. We're gonna change Ross's name to just
Voss.
to Voss
Um,
or Riz.
So it's a pretty I'm running it. I'm over it, but it's not mine, and I like that agreement, and I think there's a great collaborative spirit between both of us.
rip riffs, rip hits.
Yeah.
Ross pedals.
Rip Ross.
Rip Ross.
Damian Vila asks 2 technical questions. Is the clipping actual germanium or shotkeys?
Shotkeys.
And does the chorus use the MN3007 or something else?
So the clipping is Shotkeys tuned to the exact droppage, voltage drop, and knee of the germanium. Germanium is an unreliable, unmanufacturable, like it's not what we want to use here. And I think the pedal community is finally accepting that germanium is not sacred. We have seen it now. The greatest debunking of the myth comes from the origin of the myth himself. Bill Finnegan and the Klon has finally had to make his clones using not secret diodes and has admitted that he tuned them exactly. And so if the greatest skeptic of not being able to replicate diodes did it, then we follow in suit and have done it ourselves. And so maybe that puts to sleep some of it. But some people will never be satisfied. The germanium mode is identical, but it uses Schottky diodes. If you're wondering what all that means, good luck. I don't
Honestly, don't worry. If you're wondering what
about
that
it.
means, don't
Don't.
worry about it.
Jordan from Poison Noises is in here. He says, "Love a good bat." Talk to him because he's all crunk probably. He hadn't slept in 9 days, and I'm sure he's excited. He's excited to tell you. The bucket brigade that is in the chorus, yes, we are using. Obviously, there was this crazy, unrealistic expectation to use new old stock chips, tied along with new old stock chips sound better. And we're using current production bucket brigade devices, and there's a couple manufacturers that make those. So yeah,
Damien also said he replaces his germaniums with shotkeys all the time. So there's that.
Oh, great! I never know who I'm talking to there,
Yeah,
and I always feel like I have to give the Gettysburg Address on that.
Did the Chattanooga box and ephemera hall help you guys put the Ross history together?
No, not really. I knew everything I learned there. I knew by the time I went to Chattanooga, we were done with a lot of this. I'm always learning something, but I don't have any vivid memories of like finding something there. I think I saw this question in the comments. Did you find the schematics and use those? Like, okay, yeah, I found George Trips, actually, of Way Huge Dunlop. He used to collect schematics pre-internet, and him and Analog Man would send each other, like, George had all MXR schematics in file cabinets, and Analog Man had all of EHX, and they would mail them from LA to, I think, wherever Analog Man, Pennsylvania or somewhere, Connecticut, I don't know, one of those states. And they would mail these papers, and so George actually sent me all the Ross stuff. But I own the collection of Ross I have now is a lot. I think almost 40 pieces, and so we took those apart. I don't trust schematics if they're printed. I just don't trust them. I don't, even if I handed myself a schematic of a Morning Glory, I would assume I made an error. That would be weird if that ever happened. But I don't trust that. So we reverse engineer everything in detail. We're very grueling in that process. And we've learned that process from projects like the Bonsai Muffaletta and Pack Rat. So when we went to do this, we were very sure of what we were dealing with there. And things like Chattanooga Box House, we had already worked through all of that effort, I believe. We were pretty much done.
John Pardo says, by the time I went to Chattanooga, we were done with a lot of this. Is a great White Snake lyric. Michael Tharrington asks how we kind of talked about this already, but I think it's a good discussion. How do you all differentiate the pedals you build with Ross from those that you create with JHS? What do you think is the brand distinction between these two?
Yeah.
I'll go first. I think it'd be cool to hear Nick and Vel chime in on this. Say it one more time. I want to get the nuance of his question.
How do you all differentiate the pedals you build with Ross from those that you create with JHS? What do you think is the brand distinction between these two?
Yeah, they're different in story for me, which leads to different ideas and motivations. I think that the differentiation is that's the main thing for me. At the end of the day, we're making them here in the same building. They're almost another SKU of JHS, to be frank, in the manufacturing process. And I think this is some of the challenge not challenge. This is like, it's not a challenge at all. It's just, this is the fun part now. We dropped it all yesterday. And I think we have to kind of let it evolve, and Era 5 will become a little bit more like us every day. But we also need to be sure to never lose Bud Ross's story. And I think I don't have a good answer for that, other than to me, it's a story and a narrative and the why behind it. The why behind JHS is it has my name on it. I accidentally started this. Oh my God, I need to do it really well. And I also need to have fun and mess and be a troll sometimes and just be myself. And then Ross is the why behind Ross is I want to honor this man and what he built. So what do you guys think
How
about
do
that?
you? Sorry, let me ask a follow up. How do you keep Josh? How do you think you keep Bud's story mixed up in everything?
Yeah, I think it is letting Ross live in the past, but also like invite it into the future. That sounds like a cheesy tagline, but you like it is what it is. You know, I was never going to change this enclosure. That's like heresy.
Yeah,
Like you
right,
should be
right.
banned from the faith.
Yeah.
There are untouchable non-negotiables of this brand, and they are directly linked to Bud Ross and what he built. And there's just a lot of that, and I will never touch it. But I also want to keep using that framework, that structure of the house, so to speak. And we want to figure out how to go in Era 5 forward and kind of like build on to that house.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think with like with the way that I've kind of seen Ross and JHS differentiated. I feel like with JHS we have like a little bit more. I don't know. I think Ross has kind of like sort of like not, I don't want to say like stricter boundaries as far as like, I mean it kind of does in the
It
sense that
has stricter rules.
it has a form factor, it has a look, it has this thing, and like JHS has, we have, you know, like a look and a vibe and design rules that we use, but those design rules, that playground is a little bit more broad, right? Like if you look at something like the pulp and peel versus like, you know, the unicorn, the, you know, there's differences, and like the color box versus the morning glory is a great example in a form factor that's very big, very robust, and then very simple. I feel like with Ross, like it wouldn't, like you said, Josh, like messing with its look and vibe, it would be kind of to take away from the identity that it has, which is like Bud Ross put pedals out at this time where like everything really, there was no such thing as the basics because there was nothing on the peripheral. So it was like Ross really is down to the basics. Like there is one of pretty much every sort of type of effect that you can pretty much find for the most part, like at the base level. But like, you know, and I think for us, like it's like when somebody does it right, it's like we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think with JHS there's like a little bit more of like a sandbox feeling, and like with Ross it feels a little bit more like how do we like remain approachable within a form factor and not like overwhelm the like beauty of the simplicity of the design.
Yeah, I think I dare use this, but I feel like it hits right. Maybe Ross is minimalism and JHS is pop art. and
Sure.
that design rule is just there. And I don't want to hinder or break the design rule. I don't want to force. I would never want, Andy Warhol to do a minimalist painting. But they're both really beautiful, and it's
actually,
well. I think it's an interesting path. It's a fun thing. I'll say it that way. It's a really fun thing to get to do this because it's not what we've done for 15 years, but we're also really good at it because our stuff can be very minimal, and I think we've had practices in it. And when you add that ability of all of our experiences as a company with different product lines, and then my love of history, this is like kind of a dream, and I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's a sandbox, like you said.
Yeah.
With like the sand,
With
sand.
sand. There's a box.
I
and
could
there's
go. This is
sand.
so fun. What do we
Yeah.
want to do here? It's
we
3:10.
need to answer, or we need to announce a.
Let's
Ernie
do
Ball
it.
Ernie Ball
an
winner.
Ernie
Is everybody having
Ernie
fun?
Bird.
Is everybody having
Oh
fun?
yeah,
in
people love this.
Well, just do a few more. I mean, it's fine.
Also, I was gonna say, we could do more questions. We need to announce that, but it would be cool for us to say like our favorite memory because
I
we
was
kind
getting
of
there.
talked about the suffering part, which is cool.
Well, Belle,
Here's the thing. It is okay.
suffering
it's
is the
important
best
that we
part.
talk about our suffering because people seem to think that we don't work. Like we're not real people
Oh,
who
man.
work. They're like, oh, you guys, you're just.
That's me.
That's
I'm the real
Joshua.
person
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
Yeah, I enjoy the suffering because it's the best story. I don't like stories where everything goes right, and so I think I was just trying to pry into the conversation of like,
Yeah. Suffering's good.
No,
we needed to share this. We need to be real. Guys, we're just trying to be real with you, okay?
Yeah.
We're trying to be our authentic
No, for real.
selves.
Ross straight up broke
It
my
broke.
soul. Like Ross broke my soul.
There was a moment yesterday when we were premiering the, what's it called? Documentary. Where
See?
Nick just started quoting everybody's they're not lines, right? They
Everyone's
were interviews.
lines.
He just started quoting the interviews word for word in the exact cadence and tone.
Well, he's seen it
Yeah.
150
We
times.
would just like everybody's heard the documentaries. Well, Nick's watched it more than anybody, but we'd heard it so many times we'd just like walk into the office and be like, "I'm really excited to be reunited with Ross."
Yeah.
Like we would just regurgitate lines from the
Yeah,
documentary.
they're not even like it's
Yeah.
not even like a Dumb and Dumber quotable line. It's like they're
It's
just
just
lines
words.
of people's. But yeah, it truly has been such a feat.
I have a good question for
Yeah.
for you three. So going forward, this is my challenge. I don't have an answer, but I'm just being real. I want our customers and our fans and our family, so to speak, here to just know how it is. I had trouble yesterday really enjoying the moment.
Sure.
Because it's been such a hard job that I find myself excited that it's over, meaning
Like-
begun.
Yeah.
It's the hard thing.
It's only just started.
It's only just begun. I don't think you'll have good answers either because we're a little fried. It's been
Sure.
a hard project because we're doing JHS is to as good as we've done it in the past, really.
Yeah.
And we've added this and we've been figuring it out. And so my struggle right now, and maybe there's somebody in the comments with some good advice or good examples. It's like how to stop and appreciate it and then move forward in it with a ton of like excitement. But it was so difficult up
Yeah,
till now. I
totally.
know there's a reset because I've made stuff my whole life.
Yeah.
I've made records. I get
Yeah.
it. There's always the point where you never want to hear the mix again in the song.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
like, how are you guys going to deal with that?
I think personally, it's actually really helped me. Like we try to be a little bit careful when it comes to like reading comments and stuff. Like
I haven't
It's-
read any.
it's like, well, kind of like Joshua and I's job to read comments. So
Yeah.
if you're a jerk, you're really ruining our day. Like it's like we're also human
You're
beings.
being a jerk to Bella
being-
and I,
The
not
thing
to Josh.
is like we're like actually people. So like reading comments can be like kind of a bummer sometimes. But with the Ross release, like there's actually it's been really cool to see people's reactions and see the excitement. And so I think I kind of like when you put anything out, you put out an album, you paint a painting, or you put out a documentary, like it has to stop becoming about the process of making it for you, and it has to start becoming about what it is for everyone else. And not to the point where it like ruins your life, because you need to enjoy what you do. But
Yeah.
like for me, like the most exciting thing about Ross was like at the end when we had Cameron and everybody come to the office and react to seeing the set and like seeing the pedals in real life and seeing the interview footage with like Butch and John and Robert and everybody, and being like, oh, this actually like everything that we've been like working so hard on like really
Yeah.
means something to people and is like nostalgic. And like we have all these comments being like, I cried like a baby watching a documentary about guitar pedals. Like that's really cool
Yeah.
that like we got to do that.
Yeah.
So I feel like the thing that
is.
helps me like be excited to move forward and make more content and do more things related to Ross is like just paying attention to those people and ignoring anything else.
Yeah.
No,
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, it's that's been like a real struggle.
Because you
and
finished the documentary and you were
And
like,
then
I'm done. And then you were
I
like,
had to go cut short form from the documentary. And so I was like, oh, cool, I gotta go make tiny documentaries now. So yeah, I mean, I think the workload just in general, and like with our short, I won't say like our way smaller team, like right now, as far as editing, we have me and Zach, and we used to have like a lot bigger, a lot more bandwidth with editing, and Zach was actually gone for almost the entirety of this Ross project, so I was editing everything all by myself. But like I think with any creative project, you there's that pursuit of like wanting to make it as you want it to be the best thing it possibly can be. You're taking everything that you've ever learned about the craft that you're in and trying to apply it. You're trying to take criticism gracefully and not take it personally, because this thing that you're making isn't you, but you have put yourself so far into the project that sometimes it feels like it's you. Um, and then there's that moment where you get up to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, now people are going to watch it, and it kind of transcends into this thing where it's like the thing that you created is now no longer yours. It's everybody else's, and they get to decide. It's actually no longer in your hands anymore. And that experience and I've experienced that with like making music and sharing music. And, like this was very different because it was something like, I feel like this was the first time I really made a documentary like this. And so there was definitely that fear and trepidation of just like, it's so difficult as the person in the creative process to view your creation with any amount of objectivity, because you're so entrenched in it. So like every scene, like when you guys watch the documentary, it's like fresh eyes, clear eyes, full hearts, and can't lose. For me, I'm remembering how hot it was in the church when I filmed pushing the bus across the floor on the map. And so I have all of this stuff going on. And then I think what's been rewarding is like last night I got home, my wife was like, "Hey, I want to sit down and watch the documentary with you. I'm pretty sure you probably don't want to watch it again though." And I was like, "You're right, I don't." And so she was like, "Well, you go do something else. I'll watch it." And so I played Skyrim for 30 minutes and came
Yes.
back, and then we talked about the documentary, and it was really cool to see, and I've talked with her through the whole process, and so she like was like, "Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, man, like trying to tell that part of the story and all that stuff." But what was fun was that she like walked away and like she was like, "I get why JHS was the best pick to be
that's
the
so
ones
cool.
to like revive Ross." And I said like, "Yeah," and like, the Era 5 pedals. And then I stopped and I was like, "Do you know what Era 5 is?" And she was like, "Yeah, I know what that is."
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And like my wife doesn't care about pedals at all. Does not
Mine
care.
either. It's
But
great.
it was fun to see her go like, "Oh, it was so cool to see like, Steve Small like get emotional about his relationship with Bud Ross." And I feel like, to what you're like, to kind of bring it back around to what you asked Josh, is like, how do you kind of sit and enjoy the thing? I think there's maybe like two things that I feel like I have to sit in at the same time. It's being able to like step back, look at it, and be like, oh man, we like did it. We completed our mission, and now it's no longer mine to like judge, like it's other people's. And I can go like, at the end of the day, this was a challenge, and we did it. And then the other thing I'm also sitting in is like, what did I learn for next time? Because that's always that battle of like, if you're
Yeah.
doing creative work, it's like you always leave and you're like, I should have done this. And instead of taking the I should have done this in retrospect, I feel like I'm like, okay, well now my pockets are just loaded with new ways and new information that I had no idea going into this, like how to tell stories, how to interview people, how to, you know, pace things that aren't like a, you know, YouTube video editing is so different than making a documentary.
It's totally different.
So yeah, I think it's just being able to hold those two things, being able to be proud of what we did, and then take what we did and everything we learned and apply it to whatever we do next.
Yeah, I found myself in 15 years, I released, this is huge for me, so I'm like, I have to like pat myself on the back a little bit, just give some perspective to the fan base and stuff. I let this release. We even had a leak, and Steve didn't tell me. He didn't bother me because I was just like, I'm just gonna let this happen. I'm not reading any comments. I know that I'm proud of what I did, what our team did, and I saw 2 comments, and one was boring, and the other one was like, "Oh my god, I love this," and I let that exist as this perfect. I just happened to see them. And I've really loved being able, because of people like you, Belle, and Joshua, like taking care of that. It's been this thing I've never experienced where I was able to do this and not think twice about it when it was done. And that's been really valuable and pretty special. Like in my career, this is a kind of a hallmark of an achievement there mentally, because if any of you, especially pedal builders, y'all are in here, I see you, you know how hard that is. And so I finally find myself with this amazing team that I've never had in this season. Like this team I have now is the best of the best, I believe. And man, just this project means a lot in the sense of like where I am even personally, and I think we all are probably feeling that in our own ways here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We want to do that Ernie Ball trivia winner?
Yeah.
Today.
I've been working on my eagle sound. It needs a lot of work.
It does, because she just screams. That's what she does.
It's been very seagull-esque.
I would do it for you guys, but this mic is way too hot.
It's spicy.
This
You don't
is
wanna
the part
hear
of the JHS show where we announce the Ernie Ball Trivia Time winner.
Yeah.
Your question: what famous discontinued Music Man instrument was first to offer a gunstock oil and wax neck? The answer is the EVH. It's fine. Sorry, I had to think about what I was doing.
The Eddie Van
Halen.
I don't know
Music
why I'm
Man
clapping.
was the first instrument to offer gunstock oil and wax neck, and the winner is Lyric Bread. Lyric Bread, you win a full box of Ernie Ball strings. Please email me at thejhsshow@jhspedals.com. Send me your shipping information and tell me what kind of strings you want.
So this has been really fun. I want to do more of these. I think there's a lot of stuff that we would enjoy talking about, especially like with creativity and some of the work we do, and like a little more of our, I think sharing the human process has been fun today. Thanks for watching and being a part of this. Have you guys enjoyed it? Like, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Like to talk about the human side of pedals, like in our context. I think with history, there's always this thing of like sharing the history that happened. And then I've often said, like, we are actually doing it now. And like, I think there's something about sharing the process. I think that's one of the reasons like social media is so interesting now, because you can go to John Mayer's Instagram and he can teach you how to play slow dancing. You're like living with history like never before because of tech. And so maybe there's something valuable to being a little more open as a company and discussing our processes and failures and struggles and stuff. And if you like this kind of thing It would be cool to know in the comments. I know it's not for everyone, and I honestly don't care. People don't have to watch stuff, but it would be really interesting to see how you enjoyed this today. Anything I want to talk about here from this?
No,
Any
I'll
other
do my
thoughts?
hair next
Yeah.
time. I'm sorry that
I
it's...
like it. I like it.
I
Okay,
actually,
I'm
nice.
kind of into it.
I
Yeah.
saw you in the hallway, and I thought he looks so mature. like you look like a professor.
Oh,
Like it looks good.
okay.
There's
there
a
is
thing.
a little bit of like a little bit more of the scraggly.
I never
like,
thought you were immature. You
It's
just look noble.
it's
You
like
felt a little
thinking
bit,
hair.
a little bit more like approachable. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I should be less mean to.
Let's
you
keep
today.
saying what
It's
he's
like,
noble.
I know you have a
Approachable.
master's degree, but like I feel like
Now
I
you
could
feel
ask
it.
you. Yeah.
I when I saw you, I thought that's the look of a master's degree.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I
gonna
was
call
like,
that. I
that's
like that.
impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I won't comb
Yeah,
my hair next
just-
time.
Maybe just try it out for a little bit.
Let's try it.
No. This has been fun though.
It has
Yeah.
been.
It's been nice.
It's
Yeah.
nice. This is our Ernie Ball therapy time.
Yeah, Bell's been.
Because-
We're gonna do this.
We needed, I know I keep saying it was like, guys, we're people and we work hard and we don't just like derp around like you think we do sometimes. I see the comments. This is nice to be able to be like, let's talk about what this was actually like, what this was
Yeah.
really like, and show
Well-
you the other side of it.
And like I hope too, like I feel like it'd be interesting to see even people's questions outside of pedal questions and even just like how we make so much stuff and we've like spent so much time like writing, filming, recording, and it'd be fun to be able to share a look into that with people, and especially because there's probably people out there that just like want to make stuff too.
Yeah, I think we're making stuff, and we have the same thought processes, struggles, successes as anyone making anything. And so our medium as a company is pedals and content, but we have individual other things we all do. And I think there is something about with our fan base, like sharing the creative process that could be
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah.
I have a little bit before we go, a little Pedal World news thing. Can I share?
Yeah,
yeah.
go for it.
Ooh.
Pedal World News.
So Jacob Howard, we'll close on you. Jacob Howard, you said JHS should do a show like Iron Chef where you get two pedal builders to face off against each other. Belle, isn't that ironic?
That's weird.
That's really interesting.
Isn't that ironic?
Because this August 26th.
24.
This
24 through
Nope, we fly out on the 24th.
But the
We fly
26th,
out on the
25th.
It's on the 25th.
Yeah, so let me hold this up to the camera. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So check this out. I started planning this with Fretboard Journal. Is this on manual focus? There we go. Look at that. The Fretboard Summit, Chicago, Illinois. Illinois?
It's noise for sure.
Asks Sufjan. A 3-day guitar extravaganza, August 24th, 22nd. It's 26th. It's at the Old Town Folk School, I believe is what it's called. Doesn't matter. But look up Fretboard Summit and you can register now. We are doing something I'm so jazzed about. We're probably going to live stream it. We might actually record it, like hard disk record it, and then put it up as an episode. I haven't decided, but we are going to film this whole thing, and it's live in a theater with a live audience. And you could come and be here with us as sort of an experiment towards this other weird dream of doing the JHS show in some big cities. This is like one way of me wondering if it's a train wreck. So I got with Jason and we had this idea, and it's really simple. I'm going to spoof Iron Chef. I want to play Alton Brown, and I want to walk around, and then we're going to have two builders, and it's called Germanium Chef. And Robert Keeley and Heather Brown are going to face off with 3 judges. We have George Trips, name speaks for itself, Chris Benson, and then we have Emily from Get Offset. Belle is going to be on the stage with me. Nick's going to be there. And we're all going to do this thing live, which is essentially a spoof of exactly what you said, Jacob. So I would love to see anyone out there. Chicago's 10 hours from a lot of places, and you can drive 10 hours.
Heck yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
say. We would love to see a ton of people in the theater on Friday morning. It's at 10 a.m., and we want to do it live to see what it feels like. And I mean, where has this ever been done where we're actually going to have Robert Keeley versus Heather Brown, these two brilliant builders facing off. I'm dumping parts on the table, and they have 1 hour to build a fuzz that is judged by my predetermined judges sheet. And then we have celebrity guitar players who are going to test it. And I won't let those be named yet, but they're huge names. And it's all in an old theater, and it's pretty cool. So I'm excited. Are y'all excited?
I'm
super
excited. This is also exciting because it's Ross's very first event. We're gonna have there's a like pedal exhibit hall, so we'll have up a booth for JHS and up a booth for Ross. So it's like a baby's first pedal summit.
Yay.
Yeah.
So go to Fretboard Summit. It's Fretboard Journal, the magazine. It's their summit. So just Google Fretboard Summit 2024 and go register right now. I would love to meet you. I'd love to shake your hand, high five you, sign your vintage pedal that's broken because I know you have them, and just come hang out with us. We are all going to be there. We have both brands kind of at tables you can play. There's a ton of amazing brands there. And that was a good close to the show, I think.
Yeah.
So I have nothing else to say.
Follow Ross Electronics
Yep.
on
Follow Ross
social media.
Electronics.
RossElectronics.com.
We'll be there. We'll talk with you.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks for loving what we do. If you didn't watch it, go watch the documentary and have a wonderful evening. And coffees are really expensive.
Went on there and I said like, what else would you like